Well, hello, good people. Mark Holmes here, and as always, I appreciate each and every one of you guys. I am here in our kitchen, of course, and we're trying to make some great meals and try and make our money go a little bit further. So while I was at the store today, they had some porterhouse steaks that were on sale today, basically $9 a pound, which is fantastic. And here's what we're going to do is we're going to take these porterhouse steaks, and what we're going to do is we're going to make some pho, which is Vietnamese soup. So we're going to make the broth for this. So a couple things we got to do with this is we're going to take the meat off of here, and we're going to use that because I'm going to use that for multiple meals. I'm going to do like beef and broccoli will be one of them. I'll use some of the meat here. We'll end up using it tomorrow in the pho. And if we want to do like a steak, steak and something or other, we'll end up having the pieces, so we'll be able to use that meat later, but we'll get our money's worth out of the bone. So what I'm going to do with this pho, and it is a very aromatic and flavorful soup, what we're going to do first is I've got my grill on high, and I need to char some onions. We've got 2 onions here, and some ginger. You're going to put this on the grill, and you're basically just going to burn it. Gonna burn it. So I've got 2 small pieces of ginger right here that we're gonna put out on the grill and let it char. That's gonna go in the soup. Now the other thing we're gonna do here that's really, really important with the soup is the bone marrow in here is very, very fatty and it tastes terrible. So after we cut our meat off, what we're going to do is we're going to put it into the water, and we're going to boil it for about 5 minutes. And then we're going to basically dump that water out. We're going to rinse the bones. We're going to put new water into it, and then we're going to let that simmer. The great thing that you get the flavor out of, you get the flavor, of course, from the meat that's left on the bones, and of course the marrow and the bones. But with this, we're going to end up using star anise, which smells very, very fragrant to me like licorice. I love it. We're going to use some cinnamon sticks. We're going to use some allspice as in the seeds, and we're going to end up using clove as well as some pieces of, some pepper corns. And we're going to put that and fry that in a pan with no oil, basically to kind of char that as well. That's all going to go in a pot, and it's just going to simmer away for hours. So I'm going to get to it, cutting the meat here. These are actually 2 that I had in the freezer that I will do the same thing with. But basically we're going to cut the meat off of it. And you see that one, it's still partially frozen, which makes it easy. We're going to leave some of the meat on the bones because that's more flavor. And then we'll end up taking the rest of the steak and we'll slice it thin for our beef and broccoli, and we'll put some more in the freezer. So when you do see something that's a really good price, and you see what we have here on the bone, you can see we still left some of the meat on there and so on. So I'm going to just keep doing this and getting these put out here and taking the meat off of it. And basically you could, because here's the other thing too. If you decided we just want to have steaks tonight, you could end up saying that we're going to take the fat off of this. Just make these cubes of steaks, small chunks of steak for people. Or we can go ahead and just kind of like cut up chunks of steak and cook it with like mushrooms and make a nice little sauce with it. So you got cubes of meat. It's all going to be great tasting and healthy as well. Normally, what I would do is I wouldn't be doing it this way. If I were at home at my regular Fresh World grocery store, you can just buy bones. But I haven't been able to find bones here that aren't attached to a piece of meat. And as soon as I finish cutting this, we will go out here and toast our onion and ginger. Oh, here's what we have here now. check this out. You can see we got a pot full of our bones, okay? We're gonna turn that on. We're gonna let this boil for 5 minutes, and then we're gonna dump this water out, and we're gonna rinse the bones. And you can see, that's a lot of meat right there. That's not one meal. That's gonna be several meals. That's gonna be, some of that's gonna be tonight for our beef and broccoli. Some of that'll be tomorrow with the pho. Some of that will end up being done for, like I said, maybe like a chopped steak with mushrooms and making a nice paleo sauce to go with it. That is probably about 4 meals right there worth of meat. Because ideally, what you want to get is about 4 ounces of meat in your meals. You're not supposed to be, I mean, normally I would go ahead and just eat one of those whole steaks. You're not supposed to get that much meat. And this is where portion controls are really, really important. Now with this pho soup, Vietnamese soup, the nice thing is you make the broth, and this ends up being that you end up getting like bean sprouts, you end up taking thin sliced meat that you'll put into this, and you basically take the hot soup and you put the meat in sliced in, it will cook in the broth. You'll end up having like straw mushrooms, you'll have slices of jalapeno peppers. You can put noodles in there, although technically the noodles aren't supposed to be in here. But that will be, you have a very fresh, crunchy type soup with the vegetables. And it is great for you. This bone broth and the marrow is healthy. What is it that bone broth does for you? Your bone broth, why is it good for you? My wife who reads all the different books. Okay, we'll get back to you on that when we make the rest of the pho. So I'm going to let this boil. I'm going to go take the onions out here, and we're going to go ahead and get those things started now. Okay, so we're out here, and it's about 30 degrees, a little on the chilly side, but we got the grill up high. You can almost hear it sear right now. And we're just going to take, I cut the ginger in half, and we're just going to put this on here, and I'm going to go back inside where it's warm. And so this will end up charring on here with the heat, and that's what we want. So once you get this stuff charred, that's going to go into our broth once we get the bones boiling and cleared off. So you can see we've got our pho beginning to boil here, and you can see all of the yuck. It's like yuck, and it doesn't exactly smell really good. And see, that's where you want to go ahead and get this stuff started, so that way you get all that grease and nastiness out of there. We're going to go through, we're going to clean out the pot. We're going to put new water in it. We're going to actually rinse off the bones, so that way they've gotten all that yuckiness out. And then it will be, now it'll just be able to slowly cook. We've got the onions and garlic out there, and then we're going to start toasting, just using our frying pan, toasting our spices to go in there. So I'm going to clean this out, and we'll be back. So here's what we've done. We've sliced, we've got some good chunks of meat. This is going to be, we're going to season this for our Hunan beef for later. Excuse me, not Hunan beef. Beef and broccoli for later. And you can see how much meat we have still left over here. It's a lot of meat. So we're going to freeze that in portions that we can use. We've cleaned our pot of water right here. And we have now our bones here with some meat and stuff that are still on them. They've been rinsed off real good. That's going to go into the pot right here to start simmering down. We've got our onions and our ginger that are burning right now. And what we're going to do is this frying pan, we're going to take this, turn that up, take that off. I'm going to put a couple of cinnamon sticks in here. It's amazing, they only put a couple of cinnamon sticks in the containers these days. They literally rip you off. It's almost better to get a whole big one. We're going to put a couple of pieces of the star anise in here. Oh, I love that smell. We're going to take and put some cloves. And some allspice. And we'll get a couple of peppercorns out of our jar. And we're going to heat that up. That's going to get added to the broth, of course, with the ginger and the onion that's charred. So that's going to go in here together. That's going to be our broth base right here. We'll end up salting and peppering and stuff and adding some spices with it as well. So you guys check that out, and we'll get this going. Now, this basically is going to be simmering all day. So this is not going to be for today. This is going to be tomorrow's meal. The beef that we have right here, we're going to be using that today. And I'm going to be doing actually some cauliflower stir-fried rice. That's going to be really nice. And the beef and broccoli, which I think will be pretty tasty as well. So keep watching. Keep watching. Okay, so here's what we're doing for the pho. You see, we've cut this really nice and thin. And what you're going to do with that is, when we do actually do the broth, you take a bowl of the broth, you put the meat into it where it's real nice and hot, and it will cook right then and there. And that will give you that flavor. It'll still be tender, but it won't be rubberized because you've been cooking in it all day. So I'm pre-cutting some of this for tomorrow. All right. Ooh, look at that. Isn't that pretty? So that's what we want to have right there. That chard. That chard on both sides. Nice. So we're gonna just put this in here, and we're gonna get that in our soup, and I'm pretty much done with that. I just need to let that just simmer for about 4 or 5 hours.
Under the supervision of a journeyman level electrician. Utilize power tools. That's your right boil over. Utilize power tools and equipment, including drill saws and conduit benders.
Ooh, okay, look at that. So we're just gonna end up putting this stuff right on into the soup. And this is gonna be cooking down for about 3 to 4 hours. And then we're gonna be taking all this stuff out of it. Now, seasoning wise, you wanna put salt into it. Typically you'll put fish sauce into it. I'm actually gonna try coconut aminos in here, which it gives you that salty taste to it without it actually being like regular salt or the MSG that's in soy sauce. So this will give us some of that salty flavor that we want. Sure. Very, very fragrant. Oh, that smells so good. Okay. There we go. And voila. Just push that stuff in there. And we'll put a top on here. And we're going to let this go ahead and just do its magic. Okay, so our pho, we've gone through, we started warming this up, and I almost forgot that when I pulled the bones out last night, because we left some meat and things on there, it was actually really good because I went through, I pulled the bones off, and with it being cold, you could pull out the fat, and you could kind of shred the meat up in here, but this meat has great flavor in it. The only thing it's missing is actually a little bit of a salt taste. But we're going to put this back in here for the flavor and also for the extra meat to go with the pho. So we're making this meal go as far as possible here. And so basically, when we're ready to actually serve this, we'll get our vegetables and stuff together. We'll get this real nice and hot. And when you put it in the container, that's when you'll go ahead and put the sliced steak that we have into it so it'll cook in there. So you're going to have this meat that's been full of all the flavor and stuff. And I've got somebody sitting on my front porch. Okay, I'll be back. I wish they had smell-o-vision so you could smell the aroma between the cinnamon, the clove, the allspice, all of those flavors that are in here just smell terrific. And so the great thing about this is you have the base, and then it's just a matter of what you put into it. Now, here's what I'm going to do. We're not going to put Vietnamese noodles in there because those aren't going to be low carb. We're actually going to use the Shikari, I've mispronounced it, noodles, which are keto and paleo friendly. These are actually spaghetti noodles, but they're going to do in a pinch for this. What you do with this, these are like miracle noodles, and I've used those before. But you rinse these and you just put them into the water and just let them, get in there for a little bit. And we'll get this soup really good and hot. Now here's what we're going to have as far as our toppings and things that can go in there. And this is kind of like a smorgasbord where you have slices of jalapeno pepper, you have cilantro, you have lime. Since we have, and this is what we did yesterday, I sliced some of the steak real nice and thin. What you do is you get a bowl of this real hot and you put some of the raw meat into it. It will cook in there, but it'll still be nice and tender. So you have that. If you remember in one of the other recipes, we did the pulled pork. So we put some of the pulled pork in the freezer. So you can put pulled pork in there. So we've got that. As also too, when we did the chicken, made the chicken soup, and we still have a little bit of the chicken. So you can have one of 3 different meats in here that you cooked on a different day. That's the great thing. Once you make the broth, you're in good shape. We also have some bean sprouts that you can put in there and sriracha sauce. So you can kick it up another notch. So while this is beginning to get real nice and hot, I'm going to go ahead and rinse my noodles and add those, and then I'll get my fixin'. Now, I will probably go back to Kroger because they have these on sale. If this is good, 2 for $6. So we're going to put that in there. We will stir that on up. Oh, man. This is going to be like fine noodles. Let's get this boiling again. And let's get these toppings together. It already washed the cilantro. We used some of that earlier today on our, in our tomatoes, our tomato salad we made. One just got away. Farm. So we have there, and then of course plate some of our stuff here. Look at that. Oh, great toppings for it. And now, once this gets hot, we're gonna get some of this. Once it boils, I'm going to fix a bowl right here. So, Mike, you trying the pho? Okay. Mike's going to pass on it. Okay.
I'm not a big fan of pho.
He's not a big fan. Well, my daughter, she loves it. Both of them. We had some in Los Angeles that was incredible. In fact, bam! A nice noodle bowl. Okay. A watch pot never boils, so I'm going to stop for a second. Okay. It is boiling, and I'm going to put a little bit of the... We'll put a few pieces of the steak in here. Because I definitely like my steak. Okay, so we got a little steak in there. We're going to get some of this broth. First thing, see how the broth is already cooking the meat for us. Get some of the Miracle noodles. See that? See how pretty that makes the beef? Look at that. Okay. So now we're going to add a little bit of chicken. Some of our pulled pork from before. And we need more broth. I love the bean sprouts almost more than anything else in here. And I love the jalapeno peppers. So I like them to kick. And some cilantro. And of course, you got to kick it up a notch. And that, my friends, right there, look at that. Let's stick that in. Look at that. You see that? Doesn't that look good? It's hot because it just came off, but let's do a taste test. That's a lot. Cilantro kicks it up. There's some of the chicken. There's the pork. And there, that's some of the steak. Nice and tender. It's about 25 degrees outside, and this is perfect. The only problem is this bowl is hot. And see, the nice thing about pho is because you're making the broth and you're adding everything to it, everything has a crunch to it. And heat, because that jalapeno pepper is hot. Woo! Good. It is really good. As always, I appreciate you guys. And I'll see you soon.